Okay, I want to say we're live. I definitely want to say we are live at the moment. And yeah, this was a chapter I was really looking forward to talking about. I really was. And it's one chapter I wish I live reacted to. Honestly speaking, there is so much going on my end of things right now. If you follow me on Twitter, you will know all the updates that are going on uh, outside of YouTube. But it's half the reason why there hasn't been so much content on my end of things and why I haven't really been as consistent as I would like to be. But I'm finally here. I'm finally here to talk about Eden Zero Chapter 180. Also, hey guys, what's going on? Lucky Cheese 7 is back again to give you guys Eden Zero Chapter 180. And this is going to be more of a discussion, more so than it is going to be a live reaction. But I have fun with these type of videos. Like I really do. Like whether it was talking about the episodes of Attack on Titan or just doing this or catch up discussions too. Like it's so fun going in blind or just, reading the chapter and then having a fun little talk about it. So, chapter 180 is interesting because the chapter title is called Operation Planet Eater. And you got this beautiful cover page of clean. Um what the modeling at actually. And I remember when this part came out, people were like, so modeling gig? But uh, for the most part, if you know Hero's track record, especially when it pertains to manga covers, they don't have like an overbearing weight on the story. Ultimately, they don't have an overbearing weight on what they actually need in the grand scheme of things. It's more so for fun, and you can trace all the way back to Rave Master. Like if you go back and look at the Rave Master chapter covers, the same thing. And then Fairy Tale is no exception to that either. Fairy Tale is no exception to that rule. I want to say even now with 100 requests, it's the same thing. But it's pretty cool. Let's see what we get over here. Spring collection. Looks like perfumes of all things. Yeah, best look of spring collection. And interestingly enough, the chapter opens up with us on, Lindard, where we're seeing the factory. Everything looks like it's in ruins, like some shit went down. Emergency. Collapse of the scanning facility confirmed. And we're seeing civilians here. Civilians are crushed. And what's one thing we know is that Dead End Crow, the Titan of Eternal Darkness, is on this planet. So it's kind of one of those things where you're like, what the hell's going on here? 99 collaborators dead, one missing. I repeat. And there we see this awesome panel of Dead End Crow, almost looking somewhat menacing, if I'm being perfectly honest. But still, it's really cool. It's really cool seeing this. Not just that though, but as this is going down, we cut over to Ziggy, and we see one of the Dark Stars, Lord Ziggy. Crow has killed all the humans in the facility. That's a key thing. All the humans. And Ziggy, oh bother. The beast is getting out of control. And the scanning, data collection was near completion, so I doubt there will be a problem. All right then. And this is something we've seen Ziggy do before during the Alloy War arc or the Nero 66 arc, whatever you guys want to call that arc name. I think the Alloy War is actually a lot more badass, I'm gonna be perfectly honest here. So we're seeing him use his gravity magic to kind of like teleport, if you will. And he appears like literally right in front of Dead End Crow. Yo, Ziggy! I didn't know you kept human pets around. I accidentally squashed them. The humans you stomped on were all highly skilled in their respective fields. I had brought them here as collaborators so I could absorb their various abilities. But you were originally going to kill them anyway, right? Even so, you broke my things. I am not amused. Do you understand? And this is what I actually really, really like about this is that yeah, even though Ziggy was ultimately gonna like end their lives, I like how until the task is done, he will keep you alive for the most part. So it's kind of one of those situations where like, okay, he's not as much of a prick as you would have realized. Like, yeah, he was nice in the beginning, and it's kind of interesting seeing how that transition happens. Where when we do get back to him in Volume 12, because that's when we see Ziggy again. Volume 12 is ultimately where we see this, and it's like, whoa, what happened here? So, it's just one of those interesting scenarios, all things considered. And then you see Dead End Crow say, "A measly 100 humans isn't gonna cut it. When are you gonna feed me enough to actually fill me up?" And this is what Ziggy tells him. When this battle is over, you can have the entire Cade Cosmos. Then you can devour all the humans you like until they go extinct. But first, yes, I know. You want me to sink that Eden Zero ship, right? The Zero, and this is what Ziggy says, the Zero is every bit as powerful as the One, with the One busy elsewhere. And this is actually a key thing, because we know in the previous timeline, Connor was the captain of the Eden's One, and we saw that too, based on his tattoo, which is interesting because I went back to because I've been catching up with the anime again because I've actually yet to finish up the anime for Eden Zero, so I'm about like 20 episodes in now into the anime, and so far it's been pretty faithful. But there's a scene where you have Connor show the tattoo, and you see it's a Eden's One, so this kind of confirms something where you kind of get an idea of where the Eden's One is because you have Dead End Crow saying, "So why can't you use the One? I'm currently using all of its processing power for a certain calculation. The calculation to locate Mother." And that is a very, very key thing. It's a super, super key detail that I think we're all going to have to be aware of going forward. I really, really do. Because given the scenario here, it's setting up what was already established in the last chapters that there were four Cosmos. There was Sakura, Aoi, Cade, and Yukino. And if the cards are playing out the way I think they are, Yukino Cosmos is next. And I feel like with this line of dialogue right here, the calculation to locate Mother, something tells me we're going to get her in the Yukino Cosmos. I get the feeling. I definitely get the feeling that we're going to get something related to Mother there. Or she could be somewhere beyond that. Who knows? Who knows? Because no one's found Mother. So it kind of makes you wonder, well, okay, where's she located? I mean, remember, in the last chapter, Holly did state that when you combine all four of them together, you get the Grand Shiki Cosmos. And that brings Shiki into a whole different light, too. Where Holy kind of brings up, yeah, do you think it was all just a coincidence? It's like, why is that? And interestingly enough, after this point, when he says the calculation to locate Mother, after this is done, we cut back over to the Eden Zero crew. Mother, where we get this nice, interesting conversation between Labelia and Rebecca. And oh my god, I gotta say right now, again, watching the anime again and seeing what's going on in the Sun Jewel arc, it's still kind of something to process here. Just seeing the way Labelia is right now versus how she was, say, pre time skip. So And that's kind of something that makes me wonder how the anime is going to tackle that. It really does. Because you have Lobelia saying, "You're seriously going to try to find Mother?" And, like, while they're eating. When the battle is over, yeah. Battle, but you barely held your own against me in a fist fight. I'm really more of a gunner. And if it came down to it, I can use Ether Gear too. Ether Gear? When did you used to learn? When did you learn to use an Ether Gear? And that's where Couchpo shows up. You heard her. We're going into battle. You might want to disembark for a while. Then, what are you doing here, Miss Couchpo? I'm here to protect this kitchen. These days, I'm known as the Stomach of Edens, and I know this has kind of caused a little bit of a confusion within the community where people are like, so is that like an official title, or is that something she's just addressing herself as? I take that as something that she's addressing herself as. I don't think that's actually a full blown title, if you will, for Couchpo. But who knows? Maybe in the future. Maybe in the future. But let's see here. And then you get Lobelia saying, "I'm ready for the worst too. I was expecting to die soon anyway. I want to stay." With my dear Rebecca getting, all kawaii and everything, like just embracing her, like, yes, my bestie for life. Which, now that I think about it, she called Rebecca bestie in the Sun Jewel arc too. And I this is something I need to double check on now because Hero's done this a few times where he'll have characters addressed a certain way and it might come off as an insult, but then later on it kind of has a little bit more of a deeper meaning behind it. Because he's done this before with Rave Master and with Fairy Tale. I wonder if he's also done this with 100 Year Quest too. But it's it does make you wonder. And some people kind of want to say, yeah, it's one of those things that kind of came out of left field. Who knows? Maybe it could be one of those things where something it probably meant a whole lot more. All in all honesty, it probably did mean a whole lot more. You know, subtle details, if you will. Like you gotta like look back on like subtle cues and whatnot, where you're like, if it's subtlety, then subtlety to me is ultimately a good thing. I view that as a good thing. But it is what it is. And then you got Rebecca, like, oh Lobelia, and then Happy, straight up mad face, like, I ain't forgiving you for all the shit you've done. And Lobelia catches on to that, and we see a deep, earnest apology, like, Happy, I haven't apologized to you for everything yet. I'm sorry, and then Happy just cuts her off. Rebecca told me. And if Rebecca wants to be your friend, then I'm your friend too. It's one of those things where I'm like, would Happy say that? But Happy is normally for the most part, pretty chill character, if you will. So it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I could see Happy forgiving Lobelia. It's still kind of quick, and you could say, yeah, it's one of those conversations I wish we got to see. Yeah, it was off screen, but would have been cool actually getting to see it, even if it was like for a couple flashback panels, like one or two. It doesn't have to be like like half a chapter where it's like Naruto Part Two. Oh my god, eek, that's nightmare fuel ultimately. But it's nice because you do get to see um Leboeuf like genuinely feeling like admired by this fact that yeah, like I'm so happy that now I'm getting this chance with these guys. And I like how we're it's in a place where LaBelle is like at her lowest point. She's not at the peak that she was in the beginning of the story, and it's through the shift and progression from where Rebecca is to where LaBelle is, and getting this really allowed Lily to open up his character. Again, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, I wish we got some more a little bit more foreshadowing, but if you notice certain dialogue cues from Labella, like she does always kind of address Rebecca as a bestie. Granted, that was kind of more of like, like the popular girl, you know, being a snot nose to the underdog cheerleader, if you will. It's kind of one of those situations where you have like the queen bee looking down on, like the new girl. It's one of those situations, the underdog girl. So, but here, like I said, I like the twist that Hero did where, yeah, that Rebecca was the inspiration for LaBoy to start her own channel. And, it got to this point of frustration. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, it would have been cool to get some more, a little bit of like hints of like, oh, why is she doing that? Because now, looking back on some of those moments, it kind of recontextualizes that in a totally different view. A totally different. Man, I think it works. Honestly, I feel like that works. I wouldn't call it perfect, but ultimately, it is what it is. But we go from there. We're in the briefing room, and this is where shit gets interesting. And I mean in a big way. So you've got Hermit. I will now start the briefing on our strategy for invading the planet Lindard, uh, or Leonard, if you will. Wait, and this is where we see Elsie pop back in. She's with the Interstellar Union Army. Can we really trust her? And holy, please, let's just forget about Dear Justice for now. Ziggy has a powerful army. Even with your fleet and the Eden Zero combined, they have the numerical advantage. But if you add my Midnight Fleet to yours, dot dot dot, with the and she's kind of got that sassy look on her face, and then Elsie's like, "Fine, if Shiki trusts you, then I will as well." Which I'm still kind of got this thing going on that Holy's gonna do some shit to backstab them. I feel like that's what's gonna happen. There's something about Holy that I can't trust her. I really cannot. And I don't know what it is that she's gonna do, but it's gonna be in a situation that someone's gonna catch on to you and it's gonna be too late. And maybe what I'm thinking, what I'm thinking here all together is maybe Holy kind of ultimately becomes responsible for Ziggy getting away because that's a theory I have. Is Ziggy's gonna get away from all this? Like we're gonna get the war and whatnot, but I don't think Ziggy is gonna get caught in the crossfire. If anything, either Ziggy bails while Dead and Crow's dealing with them, or they take out Dead and Crow. And ultimately, what ends up happening is Shiki still gets his ass kicked. And it showcases that, yeah, he's still not as powerful to taking down Ziggy. But we'll see. And Shiki says, start the briefing, Hermit. Yes, sir. Soon our ship will be entering Leonard's defense zone. And we see the defense zone here. We see the grid of the plan and whatnot. We see exactly how close they are to the defense zone. We can expect to run into tens of thousands of unmanned starfighters. We'll need help from Elsie's and Holy's fleets to break through their ranks. I'll give orders from the Eden Zero is what I want to say that's from Holy, because we see a little like chibi image of Holy in that text bubble. So I'm gonna assume that's Holy mentioning it. While the enemy is distracted, the Eden Zero and Elsie's flagship will head to Leonard's surface. Here we will split into two teams. The Crow attack team, made up of starfighters, and the core subjugation team, who will be proceeding on foot, will be facing Crow. Is what Elsie says. And then you see Holy. You see, the more people you have on your side, the better. Ziggy will give us enough trouble on his own. Can't we ignore Dead and Crow? Is what Elsie says. But then Shiki says something. Holy only agreed to help us if we would help her beat him. And then Jin comes in. Either way, he's enormous. If we ignore him, he'll come and interfere anyway. It's best to keep him busy. It kind of reminds me of a Gigantomachia from My Hero Academia, only on a much, much bigger scale. Gigantomachia was one thing. But the way they're describing Dead End Crow, how massive this guy is, shit. Oh my god, that's something I want to think about too. And then Weiss, Holy's Midnight Fleet will give us a lot of firepower. We'll need that power to get through Leonard's defense zone, is what Pino says. And then Hermit. Moving on, the core subjugation team can expect to engage Ziggy's army in close combat. And then you got Laguna. You mean a direct conflict with Ziggy. And, oh my god, Clean's. I love Clean. She's funny too. So innocent, like, also core subjugation. But what does this mean? And we got Sister. If we sneak into Leonard's main server, we might be able to destroy Leonard itself, no? Hermit. But this is Ziggy we're talking about. He'll never let us do that. So, what we want to do at the core is send out a signal. A signal is what Hamura says. And I'm not gonna lie. When I read this next part, I was like, whoa, hold up. Pause. Pause, rewind. Pause, rewind. Or in this case, pause and backtrack. Because it's something I didn't even. It's a possibility and a theory I've seen going around for a while. Which is what I'm about to delve into. We have a secret weapon. We're going to summon a chronophage. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my god. The theories, like everything people have been speculating on. I put two and two together and I was like, hold on, chronophage. They're time eaters. And then what came next, in my mind, was Rebecca because Cat Leaper was a thing. And how she was kind of, in a way, been able to rewind time, if you will. And that catches Shiki's attention too. Either by chance or divine guidance, there's a chronophage heading for this sector. And Elsie says a chronophage, the cosmic plague that devours the planet's time. Happy, you're saying a chronophage is coming to Lindard? And Pino, no, according to my estimate, it'll only pass nearby. And this look Hermit gives, but we're going to ram it into Lindard. And Laguna says that's true, but even Ziggy could come back from getting eaten by a chronophage. Ram it. You can lead a chronophage, is what Hamura says. And interestingly enough, Rebecca's in the same panel, which goes back to something I mentioned earlier with this theory that was going on between Rebecca and the chronophage. I looked at all the planets that have been hit by the chronophage and found something they had in common. And it's this. Chronophages go to planets where someone has acted against the stream of time. Let that sink in. Chronophages go to planets where someone has acted against the stream of time. Norma had Rebecca coming and going with her leaper power, and Rebecca was on guilds too. See the two correlations here all together. What we've seen, chronophages are there where Rebecca's there. Norma lost a lot of years, 50 years to be exact. And when it came to Gilst, oh, it wasn't even a contest. It was so much. It was literally so much, and it made you go like, wait a second, wait. And again, this is a theory that's been going around in the community for a long time that perhaps Rebecca and the chronophages could be linked because chronophages deal with eating time. Rebecca deals with rewinding time. And that's something Rebecca's kind of shocked about too. She's like, me? There are other examples, like when an outsider to the normal flow of time. Example, like Weiss, leaves a planet, then goes to another one. Chronophage's attacks soon followed. Wait, and Rebecca starts freaking the hell out. That means Norma was eaten by a chronophage because of. And as soon as she says that, Happy intervenes and says, "No, it's not your fault, Rebecca. If it was your fault, then they should have attacked Blue Garden too." And that did cross my mind also. I was like thinking, well, if that's true, then how come Blue Garden didn't take a hit? And Hermit goes on to explain. Right. They don't go to every planet that Rebecca's visited. But it does mean she might be able to summon one. But and Wise, don't worry about it. I won't be here. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. You didn't do anything wrong. And then Rebecca looks over, says, Wise, kind of contemplates a little bit, and then immediately, what do you want me to do? Hey, I don't want you risking Rebecca's. And I'm going to take an assumption that this is Shiki talking because Shiki looks like super dead serious. And we've seen this from him too. Anytime Rebecca is like in danger, Shiki's always there. He's always there. He's like, no. Not on my watch. Hermit says, it won't just be Rebecca. If we're going to carry out this plan, all of us will be walking hand in hand with danger. Once the chronophage has been summoned, we all need to leave Lindard immediately. But we will be able to destroy Lindard and Ziggy. And honestly, the plan is good. I think it's almost perfect. But I can't sit here and think something's going to happen. And I feel like this is where Holy's going to come into the picture. I really do. Either Holy does something to screw it up intentionally, or just something messes up entirely. Because the fact that their plan was laid out like with this much detail, especially, kind of makes me go like, something's going to happen for sure. Something is definitely going to happen when it comes to this plan. The chronophage won't be in the sector for very long. While it's here, Rebecca activates her ether gear at the planet's core. Her ether waves will act as a signal to guide the chronophage to Lindard. I call it, and this goes back to the chapter title, Operation Planet Eater. And we see the final shot of Rebecca looking determined, even though there's a bit of sweat falling down from her face. And, I mean, guys, there's a lot to process here. There's honestly so much to process when it pertains to Eden Zero. Like, it's not even funny. And what I think back to is Ellie from Rave Master. For those of you who have followed Hero since the Rave Master days, y'all know just how crucial and how integral Ellie was to the story of Rave Master. From the beginning to the end, like she was like a core essential to the overall narrative of Rave Master. And it's not to say that Lucy wasn't essential, because Lucy did play a pretty big part in Fairy Tail too. But if you were to compare the two between Lucy and Ellie, I would definitely say Ellie had a lot more to do. In terms of relevancy and importance of the story. Of between Rave Master and Fairy Tales, almost kind of combining both of those series titles together. But and I feel like Rebecca's kind of in that situation now too, where we know Rebecca was gonna have an importance in the story. We knew that based on her backstory and everything. But now this confirms something. This confirms the theory that Rebecca and the chronophages are linked in some ways. Because when her ether powers are used, that's caused as a trigger for the chronophage to show up. And it kind of makes you wonder what's the whole origin behind Rebecca? Because Rebecca is a character we have little to no knowledge on. The only little bit of information we know is that Rebecca, for the most part, seemingly was an orphan. Seemingly. And she's used her cat leaper ability a few times during childhood. A few times. But her overall backstory is where I get super intrigued. Because especially if we take the whole 2,000 years later thing into account, which I do think is going to come back into play at some point. I really do. Really, really do. But like I said, this has been a theory that's been going around the community for at least 3, 4 years now. That maybe there's some connection between the chronophage and the cat leaper ability that Rebecca has. Because, like I said, chronophages are planet eaters. They take away time. We've seen this from Norma and with Gilst. Gilst obviously took a far lot longer time than what was taken away from Norma, but it's like Hermit says, Rebecca was involved in both situations, but it's only used when her ether ability kicks in. That's the thing. Her ether gear is used as a trigger, and that's what's going to be used in this situation. And I do feel like something's going to happen. I really, really do, because the plan seems too perfect. It seems way too perfect to just sit down and consider that, yeah, it's going to go smoothly. Someone's going to come and mess everything up. And like I said, I feel like this is where you're going to get the betrayal from Holy at some point. Because Holy's had a few instances here and there where you're like, it's a bit shady. It's a wee bit shady. But who knows? Like I said, the conversation between Labilia and Rebecca was sweet. It was, pure one night kind of wholesome. And the conversation between Ziggy and Detta and Crow I thought was really intriguing too. And like I said, because now we got to see the Eden's one ship in this universe, I do feel like that's going to be used as a guide for Ziggy to get away. I really do. Because here's the thing, Ziggy, especially if you go back to the Heroes volume, and I've actually got it right over here. I want to say, which chapter was it? Was it chapter 8? If you look at the chapter 8 cover page, you see Lucia, who's the main antagonist for Rave Master. You see Zareth, and then right behind Zareth is Ziggy. So to me, it's almost setting up that Ziggy is going to be the ultimately final antagonist of this whole story, and we're seeing that ever since ever since the Eden's one arc. We've seen that, and like I said, I do get the feeling we're going to see Shiki and Ziggy have a confrontation. But in that scenario, Ziggy's going to get away. I feel like no matter what situation unfolds here, even with the chronophage, Ziggy's going to get away. He's going to have to. Really, really, he's going to have to. And not just that, though. This ultimately puts Rebecca, in terms of potential, now 180 chapters deep. Like, we knew Rebecca was going to be important to the story, and I've said that before too. But now she's almost on the same pedestal to what Ellie had in terms of her importance to the story of Rave Master. And I say almost. We're not there yet, but I could see it going in that direction, coming soon. I really do. And like I said, there's this whole thing with Shiki, that Holy revealed with the four cosmos. You have the Soccer Cosmos, which we already covered, the Alloy Cosmos, which was dealt with 2 arcs ago. Yeah, like because the last arc was I don't know. I still don't even know if we're in the current arc right now, but the current arc title. I've got the wiki up right over here. The arc itself currently is called X 495 arc, which is again the 3 year time skip. I don't know for sure if we're still in that arc, but considering that, I mean, if I want to be exact here, somebody mentioned that 181 was going to be titled "A Prelude to the Cade War." So if we're dialing all of this back to the Sandra arc, that means the next chapter should be the last chapter of this arc. And then come 182, that's going to be the start of the Cade War arc, if you will. And it's so interesting too. Like 2 war arcs back to back. I'm not saying it hasn't been done before, but it's just crazy to think that like we just came out from a war arc not that long ago. The war before the time skip. And now, just 1 arc into the time skip and we're at a war. That's just so fascinating. It really is. I'm not gonna say this war arc is going to be the final arc of the Cade Cosmos saga. I highly doubt that. What I do think we're going to get is we're gonna get a scenario that's similar to the Soccer Cosmos arc, where you have Belial Goer, and then shortly after Belial Goer, you had the Eden's One arc, and that arc was when we went back to Grand Bell. So maybe we're gonna get an arc like that. Maybe. That's my prediction over here. Again, I'm super, super intrigued with what's going to be going on with Eden Zero. And the setup here with Ziggy, the setup with Shiki, the setup for Rebecca, especially Rebecca. I can't stress that enough. I really, really can. If I were to rate the chapter as a whole, I wouldn't say perfection. It's not a pure perfection chapter, but for a setup chapter, it's an amazing chapter. It's honestly an amazing chapter of Eden Zero because there's a lot of things that could happen here. There's really a lot. There was a lot set up here with Ziggy and the Eden's One to locate Mother, which I do think is going to tie into the Yukino uh, Cosmos Saga. I really do. And then this plan on Lindard dealing with Dead and Crow, and I'll be real, Dead and Crow is going to be dealt with in the arc. I really do. Dead and Crow is going to be like out of here. But Ziggy, mm-mm. And Rebecca and the Chronophage. Oh my god, it's crazy, guys. It's crazy. Like, really sit down and think about it. Like, look back on Eden Zero, all the way back to Volume One, and you compare Eden Zero early on to how it is now. I'm gonna speechless. I really am because it's almost kind of intentional on Hero's part, where he makes it feel so familiar to what it was with Fairy Tail. But as we've seen the story of Eden Zero progress, we're kind of seeing it mold back into a very similar writing style to what it was when he did Rave Master. Because I'm gonna tell you guys, Rave Master had some pretty insane stuff. And I've said this for the longest time. I think Eden Zero has the potential to go above and beyond and be the best work Heroes produced. I really, really do. But I want to see this through to the end before I make that claim. I say it has potential. Something could happen later on down the line. But with what we've seen and what Hiro has said, that he's got the story beats planned out and whatnot, like he knows where everything's gonna go. It's just the road to getting there is where he's unsure of, and that I think is interesting. It's like writing out a story treatment. Like you know the general plot of what you're gonna do with the story, but it's just connecting the dots on how we get to these certain points. And in a way, I feel like that makes Eden Zero organic in its own way. It doesn't make it perfect, but it's an interesting take in creative storytelling, creative writing, if you will. But yeah, like I said, ultimately it's an amazing chapter, and I'm really looking forward to the next one. Which I've seen a couple people have already commented. Let's see who we have here. Boom today, Skylar Maddox. Get a few comments like that every now and then. And hey, look, Blue's here. For those of you who don't know Blue Star, fellow podcast member of mine, he's joined me on a few podcasts in the past, whether it be the Naruto Anniversary podcast, um, also on the My Hero podcast, Manga Wars podcast. There's a few other podcasts we've done too, but primarily My Hero and the Naruto Anniversary podcast are things that we've done together. And maybe at some point we might even tackle Eden Zero. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe when I'm finished with the anime, maybe we could do a whole podcast discussion on the anime because it's I like what I've seen with the anime so far. I really, really do, and I know it's from the same guys that did Food Wars, JC Staff, and OP one has been amazing. I'll say that. But let's see what Blue says. Blue says, "Well, he is the final villain. Obviously, like you're gonna get a Shiki and Ziggy confrontation, and I've said this too. Ziggy's gonna get away from this no matter what. This is not gonna go the way everyone's thinking. It's not. So, yeah, I think it's gonna be a situation where they think they got the upper hand on Ziggy, and then he's gonna Uno reverse everything. Like, nope, you thought this was gonna go one way, but it ain't. It's gonna go the direction I want it to go. My decision, not yours, mine. And yeah, ultimately, I think that's all I've got to say because at this point, I'm just rambling on with ideas and whatnot. But like I said, really curious about Rebecca, more so now than ever. Um, Shiki's whole connection and what Holy alluded to, and then of course with Ziggy. As far as how they're gonna deal with Dead and Crow, I mean, like I said, they have a plan, but I don't think the plan's gonna go out exactly the way they want it to. Really don't. But aside from that, you guys, that's pretty much all I've got to say when it comes to this live stream discussion on Eden Zero Chapter 180. And I think I'm going to tackle Eden Zero for the most part in this format until, well, you guys don't know, I'm moving over to a new place. So things have been kind of crazy on my end. So for the time being, the format's going to be like this, where I read the chapter and then, we just do a little fun discussion about it. So, given that, that's pretty much all I gotta say. So, let me know what you guys' thoughts were on the chapter. What was your favorite part about it? Did you guys have any gripes with the chapter? Again, call it a nitpick, but the Labilia thing, I do feel like is a little quick, and not Labilia per se, but more so Happy. I feel like Happy just automatically accepting it, despite all the name callings and stuff that she's done and the insults. Hmm. I find that a little bit of a stretch, just a little bit. And that's just me nitpicking. But yeah, you guys, that's all I gotta say. I'm Lucky7. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Eden Zero content, and I will catch you guys next time when Eden Zero Chapter 181 comes out. Peace and Magimech